Welcome into another episode of Across the Conference, powered by Allstate. So happy to be with you here as Sydney Staples, Ari Temkin, with you each and every week. And it's tournament time, Sid.
Yep.
It is time for the Phillips 66 Big 12 Women's Basketball Championship in Kansas City. And aside from, the great competition, TCU winning the conference in back-to-back years, all anybody can talk about is that ASB glass floor. It is sick. Have you seen it?
Who hasn't seen it? Are you kidding? I mean, what would you think about playing on a surface like that?
I mean, I can't imagine. Now, it's going to be static, staying the same throughout gameplay, but yeah, like imagine you're playing and it's like shifting on you.
Yeah.
It starts moving around.
Visually, that would be interesting. I also think to myself, if I'm a player, thinking about like the shoes squeaking on the hardwood, right? How different is that with glass? Apparently, it's not so much,
Yeah.
And it's actually supposed to be in a way safer. Like, I'm thinking of a lot of like floor burns and stuff like that. You're not supposed to be getting that on the surface, but it's still weird to think that you're playing on glass.
No, it's very weird. It's very weird. And yeah, I mean, we on Big 12 today, on Tune In Big 12 Studios, we had the CEO of ASB Glass Floor, and he basically laid out, the way in which it's a safer playing surface and actually better for joints, for muscles. So I mean, that component of it is really interesting. It's obviously very cool. And I think the thing that, like, big picture, like, this is going to be standard within the next 5 to 10 years. Every single NBA team, college basketball team, there might even be high school teams that are funded in a way that allows them to play on a floor like this. And on Tuesday, the Big 12 made the announcement that Windex was the corporate sponsor of it, and they've got some great sponsor integrations with it. But I mean, the possibilities are endless with sponsorship integrations with it.
Of course. I think about when I'm watching a hockey game and you see kind of along the boards.
Yes.
There's already the static in-rink things that you'll see if you're a fan. But when you're on the broadcast, they're moving and mobile. So it's kind of that next step for basketball. We've seen this in EuroLeague. We've seen this at NBA All-Star back in 2024. But this is the first time that we're going to be seeing this floor actually used in real U.S. competition.
Yeah.
And I love that they're debuting with the Big 12.
Yes. And of course, the Big 12 women. All right, so TCU goes back-to-back.
Yep.
It's amazing when you consider that the year they didn't win, 3 years ago, they were last in the Big 12. Bunch of injuries, didn't work out, but it worked out certainly last year with Haley Van Lith and now this year with Olivia Miles. Now, they're projected as an 11 seed and as the 11 overall seed, meaning a 3 seed, which, when you think about the top of the conference, doesn't exactly speak towards, potential championship caliber, but this is a conference with a lot of depth, and 75% of this league is in the top 50 of the net rankings. So this is a very good conference top to bottom.
You're seeing a top 20 matchup between both TCU and Baylor this past weekend. The first time that a college game day is at TCU. The Horned Frogs were leading by as many as 19 points in that matchup, and that's something that I look forward to when we're getting into Big 12 championship play. But then again, can we possibly see something like that in March Madness, in the real dance? Is that kind of Big 12 matchup later on? How exciting is it for people to see something like that? And when you're mentioning just, again, the depth of what right now the Big 12 has to offer, I look at who has 2 byes and a single bye heading into this weekend.
Yes.
The fact that the teams that have the single bye, TCU, West Virginia, you also have Baylor, and then, OSU, edging out Texas Tech. I'm like, wow, I would have thought the Red Raiders were a shoo-in for that, but they're one of the only ones with a single round bye.
Yeah, right. No, exactly. And we'll see this on the men's side, too, where there's 5 elite teams. You could argue 6, certainly 5 elite teams, and one of them is only going to get a single bye, either Kansas or Iowa State, or we'll see what ends up happening. And it's the same here. Texas Tech was, at one point, the last undefeated in the Big 12, and they've since lost some games here where they fall to 5, but they've got their work cut out for them. The Big 12 has what looks to be right now a good sampling of bids. Colorado is part of the last 4 in, according to the latest bracketology via CBS. Colorado was on a heater. They'd won 5 straight and 8 of 9 before losing their last 2 games to end the regular season against BYU and Utah back-to-back. So we'll see what Colorado looks like in the tournament, because they pick up where they left off. They were one of the hottest teams in the Big 12 on the women's side. Arizona State is one of the first 4 out right now. Huge matchup in that Wednesday quarterfinal round. first round game against Arizona. Arizona State must win in order to get in. Kansas also playing on Wednesday is a team that's part of the next 4 out. They're going to need to win multiple games in this tournament in order to get in, and they've got one of the best freshmen in the country who's basically going to retire the Freshman of the Year award with what she's done this year in Jalea Davis. So a lot to watch throughout this tournament, first, second, third, and of course the championship round. So let's set up the rest of the bracket and see what we think is going to happen. Plus, let's talk NCAA tournament. Who's in, who's on the bubble, and who's got to win this weekend in order to get in. This is Across the Conference presented by Allstate along with Sydney Staples. I am Ari Temkin on a very special Women's Basketball Championship edition of Across the Conference. Rachel Galligan, our basketball insider, joins us later on in the show. You are locked in to Across the Conference, the Phillips 66 Women's Basketball Championship edition presented by Allstate here on Big 12 Studios. Welcome back Across the Conference, presented by Allstate, along with Sydney Staples. I am Ari Temkin, so great to have you with us. Here is the start of the Phillips 66 Women's Basketball Championship in Kansas City with first-round matchups going on right now. And so let's go into the radar first.
Yep.
We'll get into the bracket, deep dive it, talk about who needs to win in order to get in, what the bubble looks like, plus Rachel Galligan coming up. But let's do a women's basketball under the radar. Who do you have, Sid?
Okay, not just because of my namesake, okay, but because I genuinely think she's a three-point demon. What she can do from beyond the arc, Sydney Shaw of West Virginia. Incredible. I mean, the fact that she has over 1,000 career points, how many of those are coming from beyond the arc? Too many to count. And, 24 points with 6 threes in the Cincinnati blowout. How do you stop a player that is that good from that far out?
I was trying to think of a women's name that would start with an O, because it feels like SOS would be the perfect initials for Sydney Shaw, because her three-point shooting is saving West Virginia. West Virginia's defense is elite. Their three-point shooting from Sydney Shaw makes them unbeatable and makes them a very difficult tournament out. So I love that call with Sydney Shaw. I'm going to go with Oklahoma State's Akol Akat. 18-9 with 2 steals and a block versus Kansas on Saturday, which closed out a week in which she had 25 and 10 in a win for Oklahoma State at Iowa State. 2 impressive wins for Oklahoma State to close out the season, including on the road at Iowa State, and then a Kansas team that's desperate for a win. Akol Akat, for me, is my under the radar this week. Just been a beast inside.
No kidding. A beast in the paint, and we got a demon from beyond the arc, okay?
Love it.
That's our under the radar gals.
Which one would you rather be, a beast or a demon?
Come on, who doesn't want to be a good shooter? Come on, who doesn't want to be a female Stephen Curry?
That's right. Okay, so let's take a look at the bracket. And first, latest CBS Sports Bracketology. Last 4 in: Clemson, Virginia, Colorado, South Dakota State. So Colorado, who had won 5 straight and 8 of 9, but then lose their final 2 to end the season to BYU and Utah. They're still last 4 in. First 4 out includes Arizona State. Molly Miller's team has been, one of the biggest stories of the Big 12 this season. Their first 4 out. And the next 4 out includes 3 Big 12 schools: BYU, Utah, and Kansas. I mentioned earlier in the show that the Big 12, 75% of league is at least top 60 in the net. I think I said 50. I meant top 60. Hopefully you'll forgive me on that. But I think that's a big reason why we're seeing so many teams that are towards the bottom of the conference that are still in it. And so there's teams playing today in the first round: BYU and Utah, Arizona and Arizona State, Kansas and UCF. Those games could go a long way in deciding the Big 12's fate for the NCAA tournament.
And given how successful of a season that Molly Miller has had, how exciting is it to kick off this tournament series against your fellow in-state rival with Arizona? I mean, when you have who's ever winning that matchup between Arizona and Arizona State is going to be taking on Iowa State and Audie Crooks, who we talked about earlier on in the show. When we look at BYU and Houston, whoever's winning, we could be seeing another in-state rivalry between them and the Utes if BYU is taking home that W. We have Cincinnati and K-State. Either one of those could be taking on Red Raiders in that follow-up round. And then UCF and Kansas. Can Jalea Davis carry her team further into this postseason? How much more fight do the Jayhawks have? How much more of that pride can they maintain when they go through this tournament?
Well, I think Kansas is going to need to win at least 2 games in order to get in. They're part of that next 4 out, which also includes BYU and Utah. Kansas gets Colorado with a win over UCF on Wednesday night, and then they would get Baylor if they beat Colorado. I think if they beat UCF and Colorado, they put themselves in really good position, but I think they're probably going to need at least 3 wins in this tournament. The same is probably true for BYU. BYU plays Utah and then TCU. So if BYU beats Houston and then Utah beats TCU, I think they're in. But that's part of that next 4 out. Obviously, the next 4 of the next 4, I should say. So obviously, it depends on what happens elsewhere across conference tournaments. But I think if Kansas has a matchup in the semifinal round or the quarterfinal round against Baylor and wins, and BYU has it's either BYU or Utah. I would think if whoever wins the BYU Utah game, if they beat TCU, tough task, they'd have a shot. So look, a lot of implications here, especially when you look at bracketology. So really interesting to look at this bracket and how it might end up. My feeling is we're going to see chalk because the top of the Big 12 has been the top of the Big 12, but we'll see. Crazy things have happened. Let's check in with Rachel Galligan, our women's basketball insider here for Big 12 Studios, along with Sydney Staples. I am Ari Temkin. Rachel Galligan is next. This is Across the Conference, presented by Allstate on Big 12 Studios.
Welcome, everybody, to Across the Conference, presented by Allstate. Alongside Ari Temkin, my name is Sydney Staples, and who do we have with us? A former basketball player turned basketball analyst now in Rachel Galligan. We want to talk to you about the Big 12, how the conference is shaping up as we're heading into the latter half of the season. And Rachel, first question to you. When you think of Big 12 women's basketball, what are some words that pop into your head?
The first one is just resilient. I think underappreciated at times. The toughness, just the tenacity of this league. I mean, I have really grown fond of this conference and just the competitiveness. What's a good word to describe a conference that just beats up on each other? I mean, you just look at the standings right now and it's just a complete logjam, really from 1 to, 13. And so I don't know, what's a good word to describe that? Just deep is a good one, I think.
Yeah. And, Rachel, I mean, what we've seen, we expected Olivia Miles to have a great year. What we've seen from her down the stretch of the season has been remarkable. I mean, she has just been everything for TCU as they've, really cruised here to the finish line with some impressive wins. They obviously had Baylor on Sunday and a huge game for the Big 12. But, I mean, Olivia Miles is the player of the year in the Big 12. I think that's a given. Maybe Audie Crooks is going to push her.
Yeah.
But, I mean, is she in the conversation for National Player of the Year?
I think she has to be. I mean, 5 triple doubles on the season, 11 in her career. She's tied with Caitlin Clark for the 3rd most triple doubles in a season in NCAA history. Scored her 2,000th point to become the 9th active Division I player to reach that milestone. I mean, I just think, we even look back at that very first Baylor matchup, with her 40-point performance and was asked to play a different role in that game. I mean, we're used to seeing Olivia Miles put up big time assist numbers. There's no doubt about that. She's an elite facilitator, probably the best passing guard in all of college basketball, men or women, in my opinion. Maybe I'm biased, probably, but just what she's doing, the season that she's had to be able to forego the WNBA draft, spend her final year at TCU, and is playing the best basketball of her career. And really, I mean, she's the engine that makes TCU go. There was a reason that they were the preseason favorites. There's a reason that they've clinched a share of the regular season title. And with a win on Sunday, we'll have it outright. But Olivia Miles just makes everybody around her better. And she's showing us different roles that she can play in terms of at least shooting the ball. I mean, she went 10 of 20 in that last Baylor game. And so I don't think we'll see Baylor play that type of defense again. I think they'll switch it up a little bit, but it did showcase just the versatility that Miles has on the offensive end of the floor.
When you look at an Olivia Miles playing at Notre Dame in years past to now, how have you seen her evolve as a player since then?
Gosh, it's hard because I just feel like I've always looked at her as obviously an elite passing guard, right? We know that. I think what I've started to see a little bit more this year is maybe it's the TCU, just, the team around her, but the leadership that she's bringing on the court. You see that her teammates really respond to her. You see how, she's pulling people together in those huddles. And when she walks into the gym, it really elevates just everybody out there on the court. I just think everything we've become accustomed to seeing Olivia Miles doing, even back to her freshman year at Notre Dame, the great passing. We know she could score. I think at times, the big knock on her was, the percentages from deep, weren't as high as, maybe some other guards in the country, but she's showing that she can do a lot of different things at a very high level. And again, I just fall back to just her shooting ability, and primarily that Baylor game. I mean, that was just, she was asked, they were daring her to score 40 points in that game, and she can just do so many things. But I think offensively, even defensively, I think she's made strides, and that's probably an area that some people might knock on at times. But she's not going to be, a player that is locking you down and is known as a defensive player of the year, but I think she's made strides on the defensive end of the floor. But for me personally, I think it's the leadership and just the elevation of almost every statistical category that we've seen out of her career.
Well, and look, I mean, you're going to judge every facet of the game, but it's so difficult. And this, Rach, I mean, having played at the highest level, like, to exert that effort on one end of the floor and then being asked to guard. I mean, look, some can do it, but it's tough. You got to pick your spots, right? I mean, you're not going to be a great offensive player and a great defensive player. It's tough.
And you have the ball in your hands for, 39 minutes, right. 38 minutes of the game. I mean, she's being asked to do so many things. I think we take that for granted sometimes, Yeah,
great point. Let's go from Olivia Miles to Julia Davis, Freshman of the Year in the Big 12. We joked on the last episode that they should just rename the Freshman of the Week award to the Julia Davis Freshman of the Week award, since she wins it every week. What about National Freshman of the Year for the Kansas Julia Davis?
I mean, I think the only knock would be because she missed a fragment of those games in the regular season, and I don't know the percentages, or I've asked and no one can really give me kind of a clear answer of how many, can you miss but I'll still be in the conversation. But she leads all freshmen in conference scoring. Has been so impressive what she's done this year. I mean, so efficient, and she makes the game look easy. That's the part that's fascinating to me, averaging just under 21 points a game. She's really efficient. I mean, most of her points are coming within the paint, and obviously Kansas does a great job of getting her the basketball. And I can't help but wonder, had she not missed those games, where would Kansas be sitting in the standings right now? Because, and listen, Ari, this is to help you out. I know you're a Kansas guy, but a lot of Kansas's games came from, single digits. I think at one point I did the numbers. They lost 5 games within 3 points, and a lot of those were without her on the court. So she changes the dynamic of the way Kansas plays, the success that they have, and to be a freshman and to come into a power conference like this and have so many defenses really focused on you and to be that efficient, I think it's incredibly impressive. And she's got my vote for National Freshman of the Year.
Is there a pressure that the Jayhawks have, considering that, yes, she is a first year right now, but the retention of keeping her in that program, especially with this current, collegiate athletic-esqueness of what we're dealing with?
I'm sure. Obviously, we have to talk about that, right? We've got the transfer portal coming not too long, when the season is done. But I think we've seen Kansas, their ability to recruit a top 10 recruiting class. They've got the talent. You've got Samaya Nichols, who, wrapping up her junior season. And you've got a lot of homegrown talent, that Overland Park hotbed of Kansas that, seems to really gravitate to that Kansas roster. I hope that they can stick it together. I think that this team probably at times, have underachieved, at least when you look at their win-loss record. But I think, that's got to be the number one priority in the offseason, is finding a way to retain Davis.
All right. At the top of the Big 12, who do you think has the potential to make a run?
Oh my gosh, how much time do I have?
All the time
as much as you need, Rach.
Colorado has really come on hot here in the last month, and I don't think you can ever count out a J.R. Payne squad. They've won 8 of their last 10. I'm really high on Oklahoma State. Staley Hurd at times, can be arguably one of the best players in the conference. She's been kind of up and down a little bit at times this year, but she's playing really well right now. I honestly want to give a little attention to Iowa State. This was a team that was picked preseason number 2, and early on it was all Audie Crooks, nation's leading scorer. They were I think they were ranked 10th in the country, and in the middle of the season they kind of dropped off a little bit when everyone's like, what's going on, the sky's falling in Ames, what's wrong? Well, they lost 2 starters, and losing Addie Brown was so detrimental to this team during that stretch. And Addie Brown is an All-American, really on any roster, but she is so pivotal to Iowa State having success. And you even look at the numbers of, like, what does Audie Crooks average when Addie Brown's on the court versus when she's not? now she's back. I think she's not quite 100%, but she's finally getting back, which is a huge positive for all of us because we weren't sure she was going to return this season. But she's back. She's got like 3 games under her belt now, 1 more to close out the regular season. I mean, this is a team when healthy, in my opinion, is a Sweet 16 team. And so it almost kind of at times maybe to me replicates a little bit of what Kansas State did last year. We didn't get to see them at full strength because Ayoka Lee went down, right? But then they were able to kind of get enough together and they went on that Sweet 16 run in the NCAA tournament. So maybe, you know, does Iowa State have that in them? Obviously, we know this is a team that is accustomed to playing in March. We know this is a team that had really high expectations coming into the season. Is it possible that they really string some wins together? I think they've got to win this regular season game against Kansas State just to get some momentum. They've lost 2 right now, and just continue to get Addie Brown back and feeling 100%, you know, not necessarily on a minutes restriction. I don't know where she stands in that regard, but yeah, I mean, this is a team that can go to Kansas City and go win the whole thing. And I think they could make a deep run in the tournament as well.
Rachel, we look forward to maybe catching up with you as we close out in a few weeks from now. But for both Ari and me, Sydney Staples, this has been Across the Conference presented by Allstate.
Thanks, of course, to Rachel Galligan, our women's basketball insider, for joining us here during the women's tournament going on right now in Kansas City with Sydney Staples. I am Ari Temkin. All right, Sid, what's your prediction here? I'm
going to go TCU, WVU in the final. Horned Frogs out on top. I don't think that one's big and shocking, but I'm going to say 63-49.
Ooh, you're giving it a number, too.
I am. Why not? Let's really make this interesting.
So you went with a little bit of an upset with West Virginia. I'm going to go with an upset with Baylor over TCU. I think Baylor gets it done in a close one. I'm going to say 67-65.
Okay.
My kids are going to love the 67 score.
Oh, so. I'm sure. All right. I'm not funny. I'm not cool like that. Ari, I have a question for you before you close us out on the show.
Yes.
If you were going to be making and designing a design for a glass floor that could play at a timeout, what would it be? I would do something tie-dye. I don't know, something funky and bold.
I would do something like Ocean View.
Oh.
Like with fish and sharks, and when you dribble the ball, it looks like a puddle underneath.
Oh my God, that reminds me of like malls. Whenever I would walk, do you remember those little floors?
That's exactly what I was thinking of, like museums. Yeah.
Oh my God, could you imagine if like a whale came out from the depths and just, that would be crazy. Where is Klay Thompson and Steph Curry, Splash Brothers, when it comes to something like this? Skadoosh.
On the nose. That's Sydney Staples. I'm Ari Temkin. Enjoy the women's basketball tournament this weekend. We're back next week to talk gymnastics, swimming and diving, baseball, softball, all the updates you could ever want across the conference presented by Allstate here at Big 12 Studios.